My wife was in Atlanta when my furnace technician sent me a text that made me stop breathing for a second. "Mr. Carter, there's a locked door behind your storage shelves." I stared at the message. "What door?" I replied. "We don't have any locked rooms." He answered almost immediately. "See, I can hear someone inside, and there are 4 padlocks on the outside." I called the police, but when they finally opened that door, they found something I never expected to see inside my own house. And the worst part, the person who knew that room existed was someone I trusted completely. My name is Daniel Carter, and for 14 years, I thought I knew every corner of my house. It wasn't a mansion. It was an ordinary 2-story home with a narrow basement, an old furnace room, and a storage area my wife, Melissa, rarely let me organize. She always joked that the storage room was her kingdom. Boxes of Christmas decorations, old photographs, broken lamps, suitcases, childhood toys, and things we hadn't touched in years were stacked against the walls. I never questioned it. Then, one Thursday morning, my wife flew to Atlanta for a 3-day work conference. Before leaving, she kissed me goodbye and reminded me that the furnace had been making a strange noise. "I already called someone," she said. "He'll come by tomorrow." I didn't think anything of it. The next afternoon, the technician arrived. His name was Ray. He inspected the furnace, checked the pipes, and eventually asked me to help him move several storage shelves so he could reach a section of ductwork behind them. We moved the first shelf. Nothing. The second shelf revealed an old wall. Then Ray suddenly stopped. "Mr. Cart." His voice had changed. "What?" He pointed toward the wall. There was a narrow wooden door almost completely hidden behind the shelving. I honestly thought it was some old maintenance entrance. "I've never seen that before," I said. Ray stepped closer. Then he noticed the locks. 1, 2, 3, 4 heavy padlocks were attached to the outside. I laughed nervously. "That's impossible. There isn't supposed to be a room there." Ray didn't laugh. He leaned closer to the door. Then he looked at me. "Sir, be quiet for a second." I froze. He put his ear near the door. A few seconds passed. Then he stepped backward. "I can hear something." My stomach tightened. "What?" "Breathing." I thought he was joking. He wasn't. I walked toward the door myself. At first, I heard nothing. Then, a faint sound came from the other side. Someone was definitely there. One immediately called the police. While we waited, I called my wife. No answer. I tried again. Still nothing. That bothered me more than the locked door. My wife always answered me. About 15 minutes later, 2 officers arrived. They examined the door and asked me whether I knew anything about a hidden room. I told them the truth. "No. I swear I've never seen it." They removed the locks and opened the door. The room beyond was small and almost completely dark. There was an old chair, a small table, several boxes, a water bottle, a blanket, and on the wall was a calendar. The officer picked it up. Every date for the previous 6 months had been marked. Then one officer noticed something else. Photographs. Dozens of them. Photographs of me. Some were taken inside my own house. Some showed me leaving for work. Some showed me sitting in the backyard. Others showed me sleeping through the window of my bedroom. I felt sick with confusion. "Who took these?" I whispered. Nobody answered. Then one officer opened a drawer. Inside was a folder. My name was written across the front. I opened it. It contained copies of my bank statements, property documents, insurance papers, and personal information. Someone had been collecting details about my life, but there was one final photograph inside. It was a picture of my wife, standing in the basement, right beside the hidden door. The photograph was dated 6 months earlier. I looked at the officer. My wife told me this basement had never been renovated. The officer stranger trapped inside. It was a frightened man hiding in a narrow space behind the storage boxes after hearing us moving the shelves. He escaped before the police entered the room, but the camera footage eventually identified him. What happened afterward changed my marriage forever. My wife admitted she had lied to me for years, not because she wanted to destroy me. She said she was afraid of what would happen to her family if the truth came out. But secrets don't disappear. They grow, they wait, and eventually, they opened their own door. Months later, I stood in that basement again. The shelves were gone. The hidden room had been sealed permanently. I looked at the 4 old padlocks sitting in an evidence bag, and I realized something. The most frightening thing I had discovered that day wasn't the hidden room stranger trapped inside. It was a frightened man hiding in a narrow space behind the storage boxes after hearing us moving the shelves. He escaped before the police entered the room, but the camera footage eventually identified him. What happened afterward changed my marriage forever. My wife admitted she had lied to me for years, not because she wanted to destroy me. She said she was afraid of what would happen to her family if the truth came out. But secrets don't disappear. They grow, they wait, and eventually, they opened their own door. Months later, I stood in that basement again. The shelves were gone. The hidden room had been sealed permanently. I looked at the 4 old padlocks sitting in an evidence bag, and I realized something. The most frightening thing I had discovered that day wasn't the hidden room. It was how easily someone could live beside you and still keep an entire part of their life hidden from you. Strong ending. Writing. That day taught me something I'll never forget. A locked door isn't always hiding a dangerous person. Sometimes it's hiding a secret. And sometimes the people we trust most aren't hiding the truth because they hate us. They're hiding it because they're afraid of what will happen when we finally discover it. I still remember Ray's first message. Sir, there's a locked door behind your shelves. I can hear someone breathing. I thought the mystery was about whoever was behind that door. I was wrong. The real mystery was this. How long had the people closest to me be living with a secret I was never supposed to find? And if that technician had never moved those shelves, I might still be living in the same house, trusting the same people, completely unaware of what was hidden just a few feet away.